Welcome to another Combat Mission Battle for Normandy video. Today we're taking a look at the American side of Round 2 of the Utah Beach Tournament. In this second scenario, the main portion of the American force is preparing to move on with another attack. However, some scouts have encountered German forces at a nearby train station. A small force is detached to clear out the German defenders, which have unknown strength but are expected to be less than a company. But there is a strong chance of enemy armor being present. The American force consists of 10 Shermans, all armed with 75mm guns, and a platoon of half-track mounted infantry. Given my usual luck and skill when using tanks, this game is going to be a significant challenge for me, in particular because a good chunk of the score on the American side comes from not taking casualties. In addition to that, capturing 2 objectives and destroying the defenders make up the rest of the points. The American forces start off in a series of small fields lined with hedges. There's a few buildings past the fields, including the first touch objective, the road junction, located in a grouping of buildings. The main feature of the map is of course the large rail line running through the middle, which is almost entirely open aside from the train station building itself. On the other side of the tracks is the outskirts of a town, including the second objective, occupying the town access. While the Shermans will do well enough firing across the open middle of the map, the fields leading up to the middle and the areas with multiple buildings will be a real problem, as the Germans can easily set up ambushes with Panzerschrecks and Panzerfausts. My infantry is extremely limited and will likely struggle to clear any significant resistance from buildings. My initial plan is to move up what little infantry I have to the edge of the fields and see if I can spot any German positions. The Shermans will move up behind them to take down anything that was spotted. I found a few locations which can function as keyholes, or at least limit the number of angles any potential enemy armor can use to fire on my Shermans. I'm going to focus on getting forces there first. However, I do suspect that as the battle progresses, I'll end up making my main attack through the buildings around the road junction, and then on to the town access objective. It's the most direct route, and the rail bridge goes over top of a sunken road which could offer a protected path to advance infantry along. Since it's the most direct and obvious route, I also expect it to be the most defended, so a tough battle lies ahead. As turn 1 opens up, I have my infantry starting to move forward to scout a little bit. I am leaving the Shermans behind, and most of the half-tracks behind as well. I don't want them moving up into any area that I haven't had infantry try and clear out first. So the bulk of my force is starting to move in the direction of the road junction, as I feel like that's probably going to be my main avenue of attack, but I do have a couple scout teams, remnants of the guys that found the train station in the first place, so they're moving up on the left. And I also have some engineers who are going to blow some holes in some fences to allow easier access. And then a little bit to the side of that, on the next turn, I blow up another fence. This way, my Sherman can hopefully get some line of sight through that little keyhole position and protect the infantry as they scout ahead. And just in the remainder of the fields, more infantry moving forward slowly. On turn 3, I make my first contact. Now, these scouts were on a hunt order, and I don't think they're the ones that actually spotted this German team because they keep moving instead of stopping to engage. And that is going to be a fatal mistake for them, as one guy gets gunned down quite quickly, and the other is going to panic and attempt to run away. Over on the right, heading into the road junction buildings, one of my teams split off from a squad, starts to come under fire while crossing a field. They're not able to spot what is shooting at them, and unfortunately they're going to take some casualties. And none of the rest of my squad there manages to see what is doing the shooting either, so no return fire. Over on the left side, I've moved up a half-track. Another team of mine takes a casualty, but the half-track, armed with a 50 cal, is going to start putting some fire into the German squad that was spotted. Hopefully that 50 cal should penetrate the building walls and do some pretty significant damage to the squad inside. Hey, since I've located some enemy infantry and it seems like the fields leading up to the buildings are clear, I'm starting to advance one of my Shermans. It's going to come in and help support the half-track and the machine gun team that's nearby. And we're just going to put some fire into the building and try to take out the Germans that were inside. However, I do spot them run out the back door. I do have a squad that can see him, and they're going to take a few shots at him, but they're not going to be able to hit him. Back over to the right side towards the road junction, I have my engineer team blow another hole in the hedges so we can try and advance across that field from a safer angle, while a Sherman is going to start putting some suppressive fire into a building just in case there are any Germans hiding inside, since I know they've at least occupied some of those buildings. And the guy that ran out the back door on this turn is going to come under even more fire, and he's going to try and make another run for it, and I believe he is going to get away once again. And my scouts have heard the first tank. I had attempted to use a wait order to get the group of engineers there to advance, but after a half-track and Sherman had begun to provide covering fire. However, I messed up the timing on that, and the squad does take some casualties as they try to move into the building. And then they encounter even more Germans in the building behind and are quickly annihilated. The 50 cal on the half-track hidden under the tree there is going to open fire. However, the Sherman itself never ends up making a spot or opening fire itself, which is a little unfortunate. But it looks like this area is quite well defended. However, I do get my touch objective there by the squad moving into the building on the left. I've also located a Stug hiding behind a warehouse. So a bit of an overview of turn 8 here as I'm moving up my Shermans into their keyhole positions, and apologies for the sound. I had somehow managed to make it not record sound for the next couple turns, so they'll be a little bit silent. The Stug that I spotted behind the warehouses is going to roll forward. None of my Shermans are going to see it. You can also see my half-track there reversing out. It is broken as the gunner got shot by infantry. The rest of my Shermans are going to start indiscriminately firing into any buildings they can see to try and kill any infantry that might be hiding inside. Since I have so few of my own infantry, it's difficult to spot the German teams, in particular when they're in buildings. So I'm just using the Shermans to hit any suspected positions. Over on the left, another half-track is going to lose a gunner, and enemy mortar fire is going to start coming down on my positions. I've already lost some infantry trying to take the buildings around the road junction, so I'm moving a sacrificial half-track up, hoping it can maybe get some damage in before it gets taken out. I also have a Sherman that is blowing wide open the building because the building behind it has some Germans in it, so I'm hoping I can get some line of sight on them. More towards the left again, the artillery is going to continue coming down, 81mm mortars, and it's going to be inflicting some casualties onto my infantry, which is extremely painful given how few infantry I have. Losing them to mortar fire is definitely not something I'm looking for. I have a Sherman repositioning. I'm going to start moving them slowly over towards the road junction to get ready for a push through that way, since I've taken the first row of buildings and I don't really see any Germans on the opposite side. And my half-track is going to continue to move up, and that is pretty much exactly what I figured would happen to it. Both the gunner and the driver get killed almost immediately. So, coming from an opposite angle, I have an infantry push coming in. They're going to try and take the buildings. And this was really well set up by my opponent. He did a fantastic job of making sure that his infantry in these buildings weren't going to be exposed to angles that my tanks and half-tracks could get to, forcing me to engage with infantry. And since I have so little infantry, any casualties he can inflict on me is very, very bad for me. And that's exactly what we're going to see here. He has this unit tucked in behind that building, and I'm going to have to move in with infantry, and I am going to take casualties moving in. So not an ideal position, but I need to get these buildings cleared or I can't push my tanks up farther. I need to get some fire support up to help my infantry because they are losing quite badly to the Shermans at close range there. So I'm trying to get a Sherman to advance up through the field and another partial infantry squad to try and get some fire on the building from the opposite side. However, my Sherman has stopped. And that's because it apparently does not fit through that gap and refuses to go through. With the Sherman refusing to go through the gap, I have to do something different, and I'm bringing up another half-track. Again, armed with a 50 cal, so I'm going to have it try to peek around the corner and hopefully get some shots off and surprise the Germans. And it mostly looks like it's going to work. He gets around the corner, starts putting some fire into the building. However, the driver is going to decide that this is a terrible idea and start reversing. And honestly, I can't blame him. That was a pretty terrible idea. But it's what I have to work with, so gave it a try. While I'm trying to regroup and figure out how I'm going to approach the buildings, I do find that one German who has evaded me twice and finally managed to get someone to take him down. The retreating half-track takes some fire from across the rail station and manages to have the gunner killed, so it's going to start retreating even more than it already was. And I'm trying to advance a Sherman up the road to put some fire into the building. I do have infantry in the side building on the right that's starting to fire as well. So between the Sherman now getting its cannon involved and infantry attacking from two different angles, I'm hopeful that I'll finally be able to break the little bit of a stalemate that has developed around the buildings near the road junction. We're just past the halfway point in the game, and I've already lost a very significant portion of my infantry, so now I have to start getting even more aggressive with these Shermans. So it's hopefully got the infantry suppressed in the building, and my Shermans are now going to roll up the street and try to finish them off. This lead Sherman takes an agonizingly long amount of time to aim and start firing. However, the second one that comes around is going to get on target pretty quick. But between the multiple infantry squads from multiple angles and now two Shermans firing into the building, it shouldn't be long before the German defenders inside are taken out, or hopefully surrender. This is, of course, a very, very dangerous position for my Shermans to be in, incredibly close quarters with known infantry in the area, so definitely not something I would like to be doing. Moving more Shermans up, coming in from the angle that my half-track previously tried to use, and I think I've killed the squad in there, but for good measure, the Sherman's going to put a few more rounds into the corner of the building, and I have a half-track that's going to start moving up the narrow street there. My goal at this point is to come up that narrow street and then move in behind the warehouse, because I know there's a stug behind it. So I've got an infantry squad hunting up the road. Hopefully they're going to encounter any enemy infantry before they can blow up any of my armor. And if they do encounter enemy infantry, hopefully my armor will be able to get some shots in and take them out. So as the squad is hunting up the road there, I do get some contact, and they're going to continue moving towards the building when they see the German squad. And they hit the deck and start firing. Unfortunately, the Germans get some MP40 fire right out the window and kill two of the three guys in the squad. And then, moments later, a Panzerschreck fires and takes out my Sherman. The half-track does make the spot and start firing, however, the driver is going to panic and start reversing away immediately, while my second Sherman gets in on the action, and I'm hoping this is going to kill most of the German squad, but I don't see any of them go down. I've repositioned most of my forces to push through this area, sort of along the lines of my initial plan. However, I've come across yet another set of German defenders, at least a couple buildings full of them, so once again I'm in a bit of a stalemate with needing to push through when more enemy mortars start coming down on my... and this is again going to get some infantry kills, depleting my already incredibly depleted force. And with 11 turns to go, this is pretty much the turn that broke me. The mortars come down and absolutely shred most of my remaining infantry. I lose the driver and a half-track just off the bottom of the screen there. My Shermans are going to continue to advance, however I'm going to quickly find out that this road is also too narrow for the Shermans to get down. As you can see, the lead Sherman is about to turn off to the side as he can't go down. So at this point, running out of time, almost all my infantry is dead, lost some armor, can't attack through the vector I wanted. My morale as a player was pretty low. However, the German team that was inside the building, I don't know if they were ordered or panicked or what, but they try to flee out the front door and get shredded by multiple vehicles. So one little bit of good news on that turn, but yeah, not looking good for me at this point. I've now decided that my best course of action is to bypass the remaining buildings in the road junction and try to push up along the road underneath the rail bridge. So I have that stug to deal with, so I'm going to move a Sherman ahead and see if it can get some shots on. However, knowing my luck with tank engagements, this is probably not going to go well. And of course, the first shot falls way short. However, the stug doesn't get a shot back, even as I start peppering it with machine gun fire. So my Sherman reloads and is going to make another attempt at taking out that stug, which is also going to miss. And this time the stug has made a spot and takes out the Sherman. So I did have another Sherman moving up. They were going to try and engage at the same time, but this Sherman got slowed down, and then whatever this is happens, and that Sherman is going to get taken out as well. The problem now is unwinding this traffic jam I've created, since they can't go down the roads I wanted them to. So starting to reposition to the opposite side of the road junction, going along that bridge. Do start taking some fire from across the road from the second floors of buildings, so looking to return fire on them. And into turn 22, it's pretty much more of the same. I'm slowly pushing the Shermans across the open and putting fire into any positions that I noticed the Germans, or anywhere I think they might be as well. So second floors of buildings that can see over the walls. And here comes a Panzerschreck from the train station. It's going to hit with the first shot. I do reply pretty much immediately with a Sherman, and the contact marker disappears, so I assume I've killed the Panzerschreck team. At least I'm hoping I've killed the Panzerschreck team that was hiding out in the train station there, so hopefully that means the path is clear to continue to advance. 6 turns left, and I'm still having traffic problems repositioning out to the open area to make a move on the town access. And it also seems that Panzerschreck wasn't as dead as I hoped it was, as it takes another shot at my Sherman in the middle of the road. However, the Sherman is going to start firing back into the train station. So hopefully this time I've managed to kill the Panzerschreck team, but Sherman's going to put a couple more shots in just to be certain. But other than that, it's just staging for the next push-up, and I also have a sound contact of yet another piece of German armor in the town access itself. I need to deal with the stug that's behind the warehouse, and fortunately it actually rolls up a little bit to try and engage me at pretty much the exact moment that I'm rolling forward to engage with it. So my lead Sherman there is going to bumble its way over the terrain and then get a couple shots off. The first one is going to bounce, but the stug manages to hit the tree, and then the Sherman in behind fires a shot, gets a penetration, and the stug is taken out. But that incredibly stubborn Panzerschreck gets another shot off and kills a Sherman. And I have another Sherman that's advancing farther ahead towards the warehouse itself. And it is also going to encounter yet another Panzerschreck, and it is going to get taken out as well. So 1 stug down, but I lose 2 more Shermans. I had thought the Panzerschreck was in the train station. However, it looks like it's shooting from the ruins in between the train station and the other small building there, and it manages to get another kill. Either that or he has multiple Panzerschrecks set up in the area. The Sherman on the far right that has already taken 1 Panzerschreck rocket is going to end up taking a couple more before it's finally completely knocked out. And I now have a positive spot that it is indeed another stug sitting on the town access. This probably won't come as too much of a surprise, but at this point, with 3 minutes left and having taken so many casualties, not spotting those Panzerschrecks, I've effectively given up, and I'm just charging my forces mostly forward straight at the town access, hoping for some good news. However, it's not going to be good news, as yet another half-track goes down to the Panzerschreck that I still haven't spotted, not even a partial spot. The thing is just completely invisible, hammering me with rockets over and over. The remainder of my half-tracks are going to start moving up. I believe at this point my plan was just to have the half-tracks waste the rest of the Panzerschreck ammo and hope in the last couple turns my Shermans could get ahead with no Panzerschreck shooting them. And there goes another half-track in the bottom right. So hey, maybe that plan will work. Before I launch one last valiant charge, I am going to put some fire into the nearby building just to make sure that anything that heads up over the little ridge from that sunken-in road beneath the rail bridges, it doesn't get hit by Panzerfausts. So going to do a little bit of remodeling there and knock down the building and prepare for a final charge. And with 2 minutes left, unfortunately, I do lose my sound again for this turn. Apologies for that. But I'm going to have a Sherman just do a kamikaze charge straight up the center of the road there and see how far he can get. So maybe he'll make it to the objective. However, what happens to this Sherman is pretty much what's happened to me this entire game. He's going to get hit by a Stug, roll into a crater, all the crew are dead, gets hit by a Panzerfaust, and repeatedly gets shot by the Stug. Basically just getting kicked repeatedly while it's down, which is how I felt for the last 15 or so turns. I do get my Sherman to come up with the follow-up, and it is going to manage to get a couple shots off and actually take out the Stug. So a little bit of good news towards the end in several turns of pure pain. As the final turn starts up, I'm going to attempt to rush the Sherman onto the objective again. However, it does take a Panzerfaust into the turret, and the crew is going to bail. The one Sherman that's on the left middle there, that one has actually hit a mine and been tracked. That happened as it was coming out from underneath the bridge. My infantry makes a pretty futile attempt to try and advance, getting pinned quite quickly. And they're not even really getting a lot of good shots in on the German defenders. However, the Sherman's going to join in with some machine gun fire and at least cause a couple extra casualties at the end there as the Germans are trying to reposition. But overall, there is no chance I'm getting on that objective in this last turn. And with that, the game comes to an end with a German army major victory. I've lost 40 men killed, 30 men wounded. I have lost 8 tanks and 3 half-tracks. I managed to kill 24 Germans, wound another 6, and I got 1 kill on a Stug. The other one was disabled but not fully destroyed, so it didn't count. Overall, that was an extraordinarily painful game for me. My opponent, Cargol, played extremely well, as was expected. At this point in the tournament, I was in first place and he was in second, so I knew I was up against a very experienced player, and it definitely showed. He kicked my ass pretty solidly on this one. But thanks for watching, everyone, and see you in the next one.